If you wonder if anyone cares about you or you need a little extra love, you can come visit me and we can be online friends. I'll share some love with you. I'll be your friend.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Melissa Smith. Previously, episode 734 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 3 years, 1 day, 2 hours, and just a bit over 15 minutes.
Go out and help someone achieve their goal or achieve their dream, and it'll make you feel better, and it always comes back to you.
That was then. This is now. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well.
So how have things evolved in your life?
From our last conversation, at that point, I was getting ready to travel the world. So in 2017, I traveled the world. I went to 16 countries in 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was extremely life-changing. And I had written my first book already. And you talk about, giving yourself grace and being kind to yourself. I've updated the version of that book. So updated and revised it, expanded it. And when I was redoing it, I thought, oh my gosh, let me get this old version out of the world. But I was kind to myself. And I just kept on telling myself, this was the best writer you were at the time. This was it. And you've grown a lot. And so it's natural. That's why you're, redoing this version of your book and expanding it and adding all the knowledge that you now know. And after writing a lot and over again, of course, it's only natural that my writing would get better.
That's wonderful. I remember that one of the things that made that trip very integral to the challenge that I said it would be is that you were a family person. Like, that was the first time you were stepping away from your family that length of time. How did they react to the end of it? Like, when you returned, what was that like?
In some ways it was surreal, and in other ways it was like I never left. So there was only one person who knew that I was coming home, and that was my son. And I had plans to extend my trip a little bit longer. And in a conversation I had with my daughter in November 2017, she just casually said, if I could have one thing for Christmas, I want you home for Christmas. And so I decided to not extend and go on, but to fly home on Christmas and surprise her. And she was in shock when I came home.
She's the younger of the two?
She's the younger of the two. Okay. So at the time she was 20 and she was very shocked. She had a little bit of a hard time processing it.
I would think so.
And I went to visit my mom that night, and she was expecting a Skype call. And when I knocked on her door, she just screamed. She didn't know what to do. And then the next day, she called me in the morning to make sure that it was real.
Wow.
And for my sister, I went out to California to visit my siblings. So then I walked into an event that they were having. My brother-in-law knew I was coming, and I wanted to surprise my sister. And she just stared at me and said, that person looks like my sister.
Wow.
But it just didn't seem real because we just never been that apart for so long. And so it was really great. But then after that initial connection, it was as if, nothing had ever happened. And for my daughter, it was a growing experience for her. She didn't go off to college. So I went away and she became an adult at home on her own. And before I came home, she would say, Mom, you're just not going to recognize me. You're not going to recognize me. I'm not the same person. Wait till you get here. And she was right. I knew that she needed to be on her own. She needed to, step into adulthood. And she was always very timid and she didn't want to ask for help. And she needed me to do all these things for her. And that's not going to fly as an adult. And now she's so ahead of her time.
What about you, though? Like, how did it affect you?
For me, it's something that I've just kept. So I still travel internationally often, and it really expanded my perspective, my thought process, the way I see things, my first reactions. In many places, because the United States is so young, we don't have the same kind of historical experiences. And when you go to other countries, particularly when I went to Israel, and I just felt like I was walking through a history book and thinking, this isn't real. Like, I've read this, Like I'm actually standing in the same step. Like that can't be right because
You're
that's so
talking about
long ago.
Jesus, right? Like you're talking
Yeah.
about, yeah.
I went to like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and
Hmm.
Jaffa, and there's all these places. But even, when I went to London, you have passing a bar, a pub that's older than my country.
Hmm.
It's just, what?
You brought that back though. The
I
experience
did.
that your family had seems as though it was that, like you were now that ancient scroll or that ancient place in everything that your physical body represented. It seems as though everyone was like shocked at how you changed. Would you say that's accurate?
I think so. I mean, in some ways, I'm always going to be their sibling, their mom, their daughter. And our bond, goes really deep. So that never changes. But in other ways, I think they do see me differently because I am different. And so there was that change that had to go on about travels and what I brought back and what I saw and what I experienced and how it changed my business and what I do for work now.
Hmm. So is that still there, the personal virtual assistant? Are you still doing that?
I am. So I do still have
Sweet.
clients. I have my matchmaking. When I went on that year-long adventure, I started training virtual assistants. So I wrote my second book while on that trip. I did my first online class. I did my first online summit.
Wow.
So now I have three books, two that are still in cycle because one I took out since it was revised. I've done
Sure.
another summit now. I teach regularly, and one of my books is in college curriculum. Now I also offer remote work consulting. And this year, I started the Association of Virtual Assistants.
Oh my. Wow.
Someone had told me 3 years ago, well, here's what you would do in the next 3 years. I'm like,
Hmm.
you're out of your mind.
And what was great as well is you made a decision. There was a deciding time when you were doing this for someone and you decided, hey, well, I'm guessing at that point it's like, I think I can do this for myself. And then you make the decision and then you start doing it. And who you are as an individual really has bolstered this into all that it is, right? The association connected to how you have family life, right? And how family life supports each other. The association walks in tandem with that. Would you agree?
Yes, that's one of the things that we promote about as a benefit for the association the most. So when people say, why do people join? What do they get out of it? There's certainly tangible things that they get out of it, resources, free training. We have a growth library. They can get clients. But over and over again, what our members are saying is that they're part of a like minded community.
Hmm.
And we all, especially when you were remote, we all want to be connected to someone. And we're working alone in our homes and maybe a co working space or traveling, being nomadic. We have people in the group that are Vers. And we go a lot of places and people look at us and say, what is it that you do? What does that mean?
Hmm.
And so to go into a space where everyone just gets you, they get what you do. We have our own, inside jokes and inside lingo, and we share things in common. So, like if you're part of a podcaster group, you're going to talk about things and have your own lingo that I have no idea what it's
Yeah.
about. And I'll never have those same jokes of, oh, have you ever had a guest do this? I don't have guests. I'm not a podcaster. So those things, don't resonate on the same level. So when you're part of that group and you get to be the family and promote each other, we just had this discussion today because we're so young and we don't have a lot of resources and bandwidth, but we have a very clear mission and agenda of what we want to do throughout the rest of the year and going forward, at least through June 2020. But I had told the person, but that's the great thing about the association. It's not a group. We don't
Hmm.
promote one agenda. We don't promote one ideology. There's not one leader of the group. Our mission as an association is to promote our members and to share all the great things that they're doing. So while we don't have the bandwidth and it's not in our immediate goals right now, feel free to start on the thing that you feel so passionate about and let us promote you. That we
That's
do have the
beautiful.
resources for and the bandwidth. That's the whole reason why we exist. We're not in a new industry, but for a lot of people, it is a new industry. But it's certainly an industry that everyone would agree that is just taking off. And the statistics are in. And so the thing that someone's doing today, maybe it's not, the clickbait article that everyone's reading, but it could be next year.
Yeah. I totally agree. And for sure, this year it is affecting people and their lives. And that, how much more important is it, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you're affecting people. Like, yeah, I'm good for now. I'm good with affecting people and let it grow in the couple of years coming. Knowing that you've traveled the way you've traveled, I'm sure that you've encountered that conversation of the possibility that you could die today or tomorrow. How do you interact with that while you're not at home?
I think about that a lot because most of the people that have died in my life have died suddenly. It was not a prolonged death. So someone passing suddenly is very common for me. And one of the last trips I took, I was in Italy. I was in Lake Como, and this woman in front of me, we were on the ferry, and I gave her a tissue, and we started a conversation, and we were talking about travels. And she looked at me, and with all seriousness, she said, "Are you dying?"
Hmm.
And I said, "No. Do I look sick?" And it didn't occur to me that she might be dying.
Hmm.
And she said, "Oh, no, no, I don't mean it like that. But I had cancer and I just got clearance to travel again. It's in
Wow.
remission." And she said, "So now I'm trying to get everything in case it comes back." And I said, "Oh, I'm on the other side of that spectrum." I said, "I was married. My husband died in 2012 and my life changed drastically. I was always very well aware that we could go at any time. And so I certainly have everything in place in my business and in my personal and with my children. In case I die, I could get in a car accident. I don't have to be traveling the world."
Hmm. Well, Melissa, my friend, I'll tell you that it's a grand opportunity to connect with you and hear that you've continued. In fact, you've not just continued, you've evolved tremendously, and it's on the foundation of who you are. You are representing that it is possible to create a brand of your own unique real self. And I appreciate that tremendously because it's inspiring to me. And of course, everyone that's listening. In closing, though, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I would just say if you wonder if anyone cares about you or you need a little extra love, you can come visit me and we can be online friends. I'll share some love with you. I'll be your friend.
Love it. Again, the links are in the show notes. Melissa, my friend, it's a pleasure. I treasure. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.